What's up, everyone? Welcome back. Overnight, we had Bitcoin sell off down to $58,000, and this has some traders and investors worried if we are going to see uh, markets continue to sell off. Is Bitcoin going lower before it goes higher? And we have the SPY setting at its near all-time highs, having investors asking, is this a potential double top for the stock market, and are we going lower? Well, one thing is for sure, all eyes are on Nvidia this week as earnings come out. Earnings are supposed to be out after the stock market closed today, and Nvidia is expected to move about, I believe, 12%. Um, it's currently sitting at $123. So is Nvidia going to sell off here, or are we going to make all-time highs? Well, we will discuss that, plus what is going on with SMCI, and we'll also get into gold as well as Bitcoin and crypto. So if that sounds good to you, you know what to do. Be sure to hit the like button and be sure to subscribe if you want to see more. And let's get into the video. So Nvidia is expected to move about 12 to 13%. And so if we did just take a measurement here to the downside, uh, that 12% um, would bring us somewhere back down to the 108 area, and that would fill this gap left behind on this run up. So that is a possibility. We do know that these gaps do like to get filled at some point, and so that may be possible. However, if we did go to the upside from here, well, you could see Nvidia setting around $138. So is that possible? Could we go back up and retest this all-time high here for Nvidia? Well, it certainly is possible, depending on if Nvidia really blows out the market and outperforms the expectations. But I would say it looks like we may be looking to go close that gap. I do think that potentially is likely now, and there's a couple reasons why. We are starting to see some weakness in some of these stocks. SMCI uh, sold off overnight. Look at this. It is down, I believe, almost 20% when I started, and it's still falling, sitting down around 402. So maybe that round 400 number will provide some support here, falling through the 786 level. And there is one more gap down lower around 329. So we could see some of these stocks continuing to sell off here in the short term. On the daily time frames, a lot of these stocks have been overbought, but nevertheless, on the longer term trend, we are still in an uptrend, and on the weekly time frames, a lot of these stocks are still oversold. We can take another look at another stock, Amazon, coming down to get its gap fill it left behind on the way up. So that will clean that up. We still didn't get this gap fill up here of 184. So I think that we could see Amazon maybe potentially find a bottom somewhere here and form a base before moving higher. Just putting in a second higher low after the sell-off that we saw a couple weeks ago with the yen carry trade. And so that's something to keep in mind. I also want to bring up this chart here um, because I found this morning. I thought this was interesting. Typically, we know that the presidential election years are bullish for the markets. And so we have these different scenarios over here outlining the current White House control, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, as well as the Congress control. And what I found interesting about this is currently the White House is obviously occupied by the Democrats, and the Congress is somewhat split, I do believe. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not a big political person, but I'm pretty sure that is the case. And you can see here the average 3-month S&P 500 returns during that period was 3.9%. So that is the highest. Of course, if Republicans in control, it's 3.8%. And so there is the real possibility that the stock market continues to go up. I just wanted to point that out because we do believe that is likely. Why? Because we are starting to see the market breadth widening. RSP, which is the equal weight, is sitting just below its all-time highs here that it made just a couple of days ago. So we are starting to see rotation out of some of these big cap stocks and into other sectors, such as risk on assets. And another reason why we are seeing that is the dollar has been falling here, uh, finding a little bottom for now, right around 150. So that is interesting. We thought the dollar was going to fall once we lost this trend line back here. It did briefly for a couple days, but then it moved back up higher, retesting that downward sloping trend line, and then we broke down and fell through, and the dollar has just continued to sell off here. So it looks like the dollar could go a little lower, which we know is good for risk on assets. Of course, it could bounce here in the meantime, but nevertheless, um, that is good for assets. And we have gold setting right at its all-time highs, right around $2,500. We still think gold is going higher over the long term. Nevertheless, just kind of moving sideways here, cooling off a little bit. It's had quite the run here in the past couple of weeks, and that has been good for stocks such as the gold miners. And this is GDX sitting at 38.29 today. Um, and one thing it's been interesting here is since we did see that sell off, we did move up into our first take profit zone around 39 to $41. We thought that would be a good spot for this ETF to go to. It is pulling back here a little bit, and it looks like it may go a little bit lower, possibly going back to fill a couple of those gaps that were left behind. Maybe we'll find support here on our downwards sloping trend line. But first, let's go back to the S&P because there's just a couple things I wanted to mention here. I mentioned this last couple videos. We've got these gap fills here on the S&P. The first one setting at 543 and the next one at 534. So there is a real possibility that we could see the stock market come back down and fill some of these gaps. Um, if that were to happen, if we did see a bounce here, well, I think that would be very bullish for the markets because it shows that the markets do not want to move back too far. And this move here has really been a big move. You don't see moves like this in the market very often. We're starting to see volatility increase, which is good for traders. But if we just take a measurement on this move here for the S&P, that's a 10.4% in a matter of just a couple of weeks. So that's pretty wild. Um, if we did see the market sell off further and come down to get this other gap fill around 534, well, overall, it would still be a higher low for the stock market. And so I think that will be key moving forward. Um, and there is a real possibility. We do know that a lot of times September is one of the worst months for the stock market, but we are also coming into fall, which we know is good for crypto, and we will talk more about that in just a moment. But first, if you want to uh, buy stocks, commodities, or crypto, you can do so with Robinhood. Right now, Robinhood is offering a 1% boost plus 8 times the national savings rate when you open up an account. And you can begin investing and building your portfolio with just as little as $1. They allow you to invest in stocks, options, ETFs, and trade commission free. They also offer crypto such as Bitcoin, Ethereum, Doge, and many more, as well as gold. So if you're interested, there is a link down below in the description. Yes, it is an affiliate link, so I do appreciate it. Also, if you use that link, you will get an additional free stock share with that link. All right, guys, let's get into crypto and what is going on with Bitcoin. Well, I want to bring up this chart first here because uh, this is something that is kind of divided in stock market approach, but a lot of investors, probably a percentage of more investors than not, understand that the liquidity and the price of assets move together. So as liquidity increases, so does the price of assets. And particularly when liquidity is being injected into the markets, this is the sweet zone for risk on assets such as Bitcoin and crypto, and that's when you see these big stock moves. And you'll also see a lot of small cap stocks really start to take off. But I just wanted to point this out because this is the global uh, liquidity versus the Bitcoin price. And you can see that every time liquidity is moving up is when we get these peaks here on Bitcoin. Then when it comes down is whenever we go into those bear markets. And you can see the same thing here in 2020 when liquidity began being injected into the system. Of course, we had the COVID dip or crash, but that was pretty brief overall. As liquidity increased, so did the price of Bitcoin. And so I wanted to point out a couple other things that I found this morning. Um, there is the potential for a big China stimulus may finally be coming. The copper price has kind of sniffed this out. Copper sold off a lot recently and has been moving up. But this article here uh, said that chatter is increased on Monday regarding the possible economic stimulus measures from China's government. Expectations of big stimulus measures out of Beijing have produced a string of disappointments since early 2023, but Chinese economy data has turned so weak that this time will likely be different. So that is some interesting news. This article was posted about 10 days ago on August 19th. But nevertheless, there was a few things in this article I thought was important. So first off, in a Monday report from Reuters, an unnamed policy advisor to Beijing said Chinese government may raise the limit on the amount of bonds approved for issue this year, which would widen the deficit. Reuters also cited a recent report in the government-run China Daily Beijing should consider additional direct support to consumers worth at least 1 trillion yen or $1.39 billion. So that is a lot of money. And we also have this article I found this morning, China's surprising bond boom. So this goes back to tie in with what we see that is coming. We know that a lot of these different markets around the world are looking to add liquidity back into the system. We know here in the US that bonds are being bought back by the Treasury. So that just is more liquidity being added into the system, and so that should drive the prices higher. A couple things I want to point out for Bitcoin on the price chart. We did lose this level here right around 59,000. We wicked down and touched this upwards sloping parallel channel, which has been acting as support, as you can see all through here, minus this one dip. So would I be concerned? No. Would I be getting in? Yeah, I think this is a good opportunity to buy in. I think this is one of the last opportunities that investors are going to get when investing in crypto before it moves higher. I still think that Bitcoin does eventually go back up and retest those all-time highs here very soon. The last couple weeks have been really pretty bullish. I think what is happening at the moment is everything is just kind of waiting on the Nvidia earnings, and so risk assets such as Bitcoin, a lot of times they kind of tend to sniff out these moves that may come in the stock market first. So maybe uh, Bitcoin has now put in a bottom, and that may correlate with some of these other stocks selling off potentially after Nvidia's earnings. Nevertheless, I still think the stock market and Bitcoin go much higher over the next 6, 12, and possibly 18 months. Uh, and why do I say that about crypto? In general, well, this is total three, so this is everything minus Bitcoin and Ethereum. And really, it is still looking fairly good despite the sell-off we've seen in crypto this summer. We are starting to see a lot of support around this area, and I do think that the low has probably been put in for crypto here. We know August is typically weak. We generally do see some sort of pullback in September, but a lot of times we do see a rally into that first rate cut, and then a lot of times you see the pullback. So I do think that things may move higher here in the coming days and weeks, and then potentially we do see some more weakness towards the back half of September. And a couple other things I wanted to point out. This is the chart of Solana setting at 143, continuing just to range sideways here. And it has been looking more bullish than some of these other altcoins. And we have the Bitcoin dominance peaking out here around 58%. So we know we've had this rising wedge pattern and our megaphone. Well, this is the opposite of that, but nevertheless, we know that if we lose this trend here, then altcoin season will take off. So that's something to keep in mind. I do think that is coming. And why is that? Well, if we take a look at the weekly charts on some of these altcoins, this is Chainlink, for example. So this is weekly chart. We are starting to put in a series of higher lows and higher highs on the weekly. And if you look at the stochastic RSI, we're at levels that we have not seen on Chainlink. If you go back and look at this, since the stock market or the crypto market sold off and bottomed out back in 2022. So that is wild. We did put in this slight lower low here, but nevertheless, since then, it has been a series of higher lows and higher highs. And really, the point of me saying this for a lot of these altcoins, including the Total 3, is I do think this is our last best chance to get in right here. anywhere in this area for a spot buyer for this bull run. I think this is a great entry just now, really overall on the longer term time frame, putting in that second uh, bigger, higher low. And I do suspect that these coins will move much higher. We do have our first take a profit zone up here around $17 to $20 for Chainlink. Avalanche, same thing, weekly chart. Finding some support now back here right around $21, sitting at 23.89. Again, on the weekly chart, we're still towards the bottom side on the RSIs. Ever since we saw this run up in October last year, and we saw the 14 RSI close way overheated on the weekly time frame, we have started to come back down, and you see we are leveling out here. So this is also indicating that we probably are marking some type of bottom here. So I still think that these are great prices for spot investors. If you're interested in buying Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Chainlink, Avalanche, and many more, you can do so with iTrust Capital. iTrust Capital allows you to buy, sell, and trade crypto, gold, and silver 24/7 in a low cost, no monthly fee, tax advantage IRA. They have over 5,000 plus five-star reviews on Google. I use iTrust Capital, and what I like about iTrust Capital is they allow you to roll over a portion or all of your 401k or IRA with iTrust. So if you're interested, there is a link down below in the description. And I will say that iTrust does have people that you can actually call and talk to when setting up your account. Plus, if you use the link below, you will receive an additional $100 in your account. All right, guys, it is Wednesday. Don't forget to go follow me over on X at Mind of Financier. I am Mind of the Financier on YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, so you can follow me there as well. But over here on X, I post anything that I see that has to do with the markets, including stocks, commodities, and crypto. All right, guys, until next time, take care, be legendary, and peace out.